Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.
Hey, how you all going? It's Jai That Aussie Metal Guy here with crank.com and with thatmetalstation.com. So tonight, it's great pleasure that I'm having a chat with Ben and Jesse, bassist and vocalist from North Carolina, progressive metal powerhouse, Stellar Circuits, who are definitely taking the world by storm with the release of their second album, Sight to Sound, which recently dropped through Nuclear Blast on the 9th of June. Absolute ripper album. I'm really enjoying it and glad I've come across you guys.
Cheers, man. We're happy to be here talking to you. We appreciate your time.
Nah, man, it's an absolute ripper album. I hadn't heard of you guys before, and then I had a good friend, Jim Taylor. He's with a band, Len, over in the US, and he's like, "You got to check out Stellar Circuits. They're my boys." He was meant to drop in for the podcast today, still may do it, but he's like, "You got to check out Stellar Circuits. They've just signed with Nuclear Blast," and I just got the fucking email for it as well. So for me, getting that first single and seeing that you guys had signed a Nuclear Blast, give me a chance to kind of dive back into the earlier stuff. Can you tell me kind of how you guys started and where this kind of all began back in 2014, 15?
So me and Jesse have been friends since we were kids, man. And we've always really loved music, but we were sort of late bloomers when it came to playing music. We started when we were around 19 or 20. So this was like 15 years ago. And it was something that just kind of organically evolved. We started out playing a lot of cover tunes together. You know, we'd be jamming shit like Alice in Chains or System of a Down or Tool. We even had a Carnival song in there, Mausium, deep cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then that just turned into we had a band, man. I had a band at the time with our first guitar player, and it sort of fell apart, and so it just sort of became Stellar Circuits, and everything was really natural. But yeah, like I said, me and Jesse have known each other our whole lives, so it really just fit together for us to be playing music with each other.
Yeah, so what was it like doing those first two releases? Because you can see the growth in the band from that first EP to that second album. That first album, I mean, was an absolute ripper and kind of got you a fair bit of traction, a lot more airplay with listeners all over the place, and kind of garnered you a few good tour spots that kind of got you a lot more coverage as well.
Yeah, I think earlier on, I think our influences maybe have shown a little bit more so early on. Yeah, we were just learning how to write together, really. I mean, it's really what it was about. And then, you know, getting more comfortable with one another in the same room and just grinding out ideas. And then Ways We Haunt came about, what was it, 3 years after the
Something like that. Yeah, 3
years
2018,
after.
yeah.
And yeah, that was a big step in our progression as a band for sure. Like we started to get into more progressive bands and just mix of influences, and we've said it before, we're just like kind of a melting pot of inspiration from a lot of different types of music and bands and stuff. So
yeah, I think a big thing too was we had Jamie master our first EP, and we went and recorded with some guys that they were from around our area but not super familiar with our style of music. So we were happy with how it turned out, because I mean, we didn't know shit anyway, so we weren't like, you know, breathing down their neck for anything in particular. But that move then from the EP to Ways We Haunt and then working with Jamie was such, like, it was crazy to work with him. We were just, you know, a little starstruck. But the funny thing is he actually lives 5 minutes down the road from us. And so, but yeah, I'm getting off on a tangent. The main thing was that working with him was a big jump from those two.
You just worked with Jamie again for this album as well too, and
yeah, it was cool then, because the first time we were, you know, a little bit nervous and didn't know what to expect, and he's a very welcoming dude. But then the second time we had worked with him before, so there was a lot more comfortability with us, like just kind of saying what we wanted and just making it happen, you know.
Yeah, so what was it like signing over to Nuclear Blast? Kind of, you know, for this album, I dare say these guys wanted to get it out a little bit earlier, but with COVID, it kind of probably give you a little bit more time to kind of work that, kind of get onto the label as well. So
yeah.
Yeah, like what was it like, you're saying?
Yeah, what was it like getting signed over to Nuclear Blast, man?
Yeah, and we held on to the news for so long, you know, like we knew for a long time that we had gotten signed, and yeah, we were just anxious to just release the music, to release the news to people.
We were honestly a little surprised too, man, because like we're big fans of Nuclear, but we didn't think we were like heavy enough for that label, you know. And we talked to Monty, and he was like, "Dude, you know, Witch House can hang with the best of them, and you guys
Oh,
have
yeah.
some rivers on there." So like, we felt confident from that. But we've never even kind of really considered ourselves like a metal band. I mean, we don't think of ourselves as a rock band. I don't know, man. We just like making music similar to the music that inspires us. You know what I mean?
That's the good thing about progressive metal. You can kind of throw everything at the fucking wall and kind of put all your
Yeah, for
influences in
sure,
there and
dude.
have a bash at it and, you know,
For sure.
create this music. And with your vocals, I'll talk about your vocals, Ben, first. Man, unreal, dude. You can go through these really soft melodies and then just hit these heavies, man. And it just sounds so bloody unreal. And with the playing of their Jesse, Jared, and Tyler on drums, it just kind of seamlessly fits together through these different, you know, energies of the band.
Yeah, I think like Jesse said, we have like a lot of diverse influences. And we made a post recently on social media about this, but it was kind of pertaining to just we have like a Mount Rushmore of sorts that we all can kind of agree on, of sort of like a North Star, like the best shit that we've ever heard, right? And we don't want to sound like those bands necessarily, but we kind of all collectively agree on those things. And then of course we all have like crazy tangents of our own of stuff that we're into. So there's a lot of bouncing around, man. Nobody in this band like listens to one kind of music or anything like that. So we try to make it cohesive. But you know, we do take pride in also trying to do different things too, man. Like I know Mars Volta has always been a big influence for that regard. That just pops in my head, but it's a band that can just make like a different kind of song all the time. You know what I mean? And it's accepted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can you tell us about that first single there, Witch House, since you mentioned that one?
Sure. Yeah. Jesse probably
Yeah.
started writing.
Tell you about it. That was definitely like a different kind of route that we've ever taken. Like we had a vision in mind that we wanted to have something that was just like heavy through and through and just didn't let off the throttle kind of thing. And that was really just like not a goal, but just like the outlook of that song, like what we wanted to accomplish with the music. Of course, you know, instrumentally, we never know once we hand it off to Ben what's going to happen to it. And that's the beauty of like writing together. Obviously, just you never really know what it's going to end up sounding like. But that ended up being Monty Connor's favorite song that he heard, and it sounded like one of the reasons why we got the deal with Nuclear Blast. I don't know exactly, but he was really excited about that track. So it ended up being the lead single of the album. Wouldn't have been my choice, to be honest with you.
What one were you going with?
That's just a personal thing, though.
He said which one?
Which one would you have gone with?
Yeah. Which one would you have gone with?
Oh, which one would I have gone with? Probably not one that people would like as much. I like the album Closer a lot. I like Where Were You? That's that one, and Truth Seeker has stuck around as one of my favorites. It goes a lot of places. It kind of has like this whole progression throughout that I really like. I don't know. But I think Where Were You probably wouldn't have been the greatest single, but it's one of my favorites.
It's a nice track to end the album out. Can you tell me a little bit more about that one? Because that was literally the last track I played before I chat with you guys.
I want to say it was one of the last ones that we wrote too. I know Alchemy was the last one. I think
so, yeah. So there was this
killer.
inclusive feeling to the track almost. I listened to the record again recently, and I really liked how the final sequence that we ended up with started at this like punch in the mouth almost, and then it just sort of led to Where Were You being at the end. I really like the progression and the sequencing of that. But yeah, it has like a finality to it, which I think was like sort of a breath of relief because we had just sat and wrote this album for a year or whatever it took. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would have been hard sitting on it for the time you did, because as you were saying with that album Ways We Haunt, you probably wanted to keep rolling along really quick, and then with COVID it fucking kind of just put a stop to everything and probably wait until the right time to kind of release this album.
Yeah, dude, it was a challenge.
But it's weird because I feel like it's weird because we got this opportunity with Chevelle then. So it was like, and we don't know if that would have happened if you know, COVID wasn't going on. We don't know, You know, maybe
Any
there was
of
a
it,
lot,
you know?
maybe there was a lot more bands that jumped at the bit, from the start with the Chevelle thing. Maybe we wouldn't have gotten it if it wasn't,
Yeah, I mean, it was a
circumstance,
struggle,
but
dude, but we definitely kind of have this idea about just things happen the way they're supposed to, you know what I
Yep.
mean? And even though it was a challenge and there was a lot of time in between, it had led to so many opportunities for us. And I think it'll serve us well too, because we really grew a lot in that time of waiting. And I think that'll help propel us past this record into the next record and to help us keep going. So I'm excited for honestly this record being out and the next string of records. I feel like we have a good momentum right now as a band, and I'm ready to put out as much music as we can, you know.
yeah, we've always wanted to be a little bit more prolific, but there's always been something that kind of got in our way with releasing records. Like we held on to Ways We Haunt for
Yeah,
it was like a year and a half.
it was never a creativity type thing, man. It was always like as an independent band,
Just getting it out.
up until recently, just trying to figure out the best way for people to hear our music, because we knew that if we just put our everything into writing it and then just like released it without thinking about it, it would kind of do a disservice to the work, you know?
Oh, definitely. And it's probably signing up with Nuclear Blast help kind of because you can get these really cooler film clips out, like with Witch House and Catch Your
Sure.
Death, which was the second single, which was an absolute ripper. Even started out with you a little bit of freestyling at the front there. And
Yeah, that was
yeah,
different, man.
that was different, man. It was a cool ass fucking track. I'm really loving the whole album, the melodies, the bass lines. It's for me, this is some of the coolest shit I've heard fucking so far, man, this year. It's really, really
That's
enjoying
right.
it. And that Catch Your Death track was really cool. I like hearing bands doing something different, pushing themselves. And I can listen to like a death metal album death metal band that does the same thing for 10 albums. I love it. But also love hearing bands like yourself that really just throw everything at the wall and push themselves musically, creatively as well to kind of make these albums.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about working your bass lines there, Jesse, man, because some of your bass lines are just absolutely unreal, bro.
Well, a lot of the ideas start, at least with this, Sight to Sound, it started with Tyler and I laying down a lot of ideas, like a lot of the rhythm stuff being laid down first. So I feel like it may have played a bigger piece in the music. I think Ways We Haunt was a little bit less of that. It was more like the guitars and the basses. We worked a lot together when we laid down the ideas. But yeah, this was like a lot of the rhythm stuff was laid down first. So I had more of a voice maybe on this record than Ways We Haunt. And the tone, I feel like, and just the way the bass sits in the mix, it was a little heavier than in Ways We Haunt. So
yeah, it definitely was. It has that really groovy progression all through the album, which I absolutely dug the hell out of, man. Can you tell me a little bit about the latest one, the track Pleasure Cruise?
I've said this before, man. For me, it's kind of weird when people ask me that, because I have this tendency to really dive deep into the songs, and then when they're over, it's almost like it's gone, man. I have a really hard time remembering each one. When I'm working on each one, it's like nothing else in the world matters to me. And then when I move on to the next one, it's the same thing. So it can be hard sometimes to remember the process. Plus, man, sometimes it gets a little smoky in the room, everything gets a little fuzzy, so it's hard to remember, dude.
Yeah.
But I rely on these guys to kind of jog my memory and tell me like, oh yeah, this was what was going down at that time. It's more of just like I remember the feelings and sometimes the events surrounding the writing, not the actual writing,
Yeah.
I feel like it's Pleasure Cruise has a nice balance between accessibility and progressiveness. I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why we chose it as one of the singles for the album. Especially the pre-chorus and the chorus. I feel like it's very like hooky or catchy in a way, with the guitar licks and then the way the vocals come in and stuff. So yeah, it just has a good balance, I feel like, for us, like
Yeah.
for this record, like our sound.
Yeah, I
feel like
think
it
it's
has
a good
balance.
representation of our sound, even though we do have a lot of different sounding stuff. I think that one kind of covers a lot of the bases,
Yeah, interestingly enough, I feel like Witch House was kind of an outlier. Catch Your Death was kind of an outlier with these two different sounds, and then maybe Pleasure Cruise was kind of in the middle of those two. It has like this heaviness, but it has this progressiveness to it.
Progressiveness as well. It was really good, those first 3 singles as well, to kind of see the different kind of, it was a good first 3 singles to come off of that album anyway, to kind of give the fans and the listeners kind of the range of what you guys are doing as well.
Yeah, and it's always really hard to choose.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because we have, being a more progressive minded band, it's kind of hard to choose what route you want to take. Like, do we want to release the heavy stuff to people? Do we want to release the ambient, more atmospheric stuff? Or
it seems like it's a good idea. Like, and we kind of tried to do this, was just leave it more into the hands of the guys working that promotional side. Like, we have a say in what songs we want it to be out, but we trust them too, man. Is like, that's their job to like know what the most accessible songs might be, or even just be that outside perspective. Mm-hmm. So we kind of try to put it in their hands as far as which songs go out first, and you know, all that.
Yeah, the singles are good, but that being said, the whole album I absolutely loved. You mentioned Alchemy before, that was a ripper track. Skull Beneath Smile, Nightlife, Learning to Sleep. I love the whole album. Where Were You, as I mentioned? It must have been a joy to kind of finally get this one out, but bet you guys are really looking forward to get on stage and being able to play some of these out live to some of the fans. Yeah,
for sure, man. We played a couple of them on the Chevelle tour and leading up to the record, just tentatively, but we can't wait to get on the road, man. We've been working at that since we started putting this release in place. So we got an announcement coming real soon. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try to cover as much ground as possible. Australia is definitely on the list of places we're trying to get to ASAP.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking to Fifth Angel, John Mako from Fifth Angel. The thing is, people need to buy the albums as well. Don't just stream on Spotify, people. Go buy a fucking heap of merch. Push that Stellar Circuits album up on the labels there here in Australia and all over the world. If everyone goes in and actually buy some merch, some albums, the kick-ass vinyls you've got, then bands like yourselves are more likely to play live, you know what I mean? That's what people forget about. You got to have that actual fucking support. And yes, Spotify does kind of help to pick the numbers and go, yeah, okay, we're more playing that. But also when a fan goes and buys that album and goes, man, I love that whole album, comes up and talks about some of the deep cuts, it's got to fucking mean a little bit more than, oh, I just heard those 3 singles on Spotify.
Yeah, that's any band these days, man, relies heavily on that merchandise to be able to even get on the road.
Yep.
So it really helps us to keep going and lets us know where people are listening to us at. And these days there's a lot of even venue cuts, for merchandise. So
I hate that.
Buying it directly from the band from a website is although you have to pay shipping and it's a pain in the ass, it's the most direct way to help support a band,
Yeah, well, Nuclear Blast are good. They've got your album up on there. And also I know JB Hi-Fi are kind of connected with you guys here in Australia. So wherever you are in the world, you can get hold of it and kind of avoid those shipping costs, but still support the fucking band and what they do. You know what I mean?
We appreciate it, man. We tell everybody, we really appreciate it every time, man. It's not lost on us. Every single CD, every single vinyl record, every single T-shirt, man, it means everything to us. So we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, support is bloody everything, everybody. Look, Stellar Circuits, this has been an absolute pleasure. Jesse, Ben, thank you so very much for joining me. Hopefully catch you guys in the land down under sometime soon. Do you have any last words, shout outs, thank yous, or anything else you'd like to add in there, my friends?
Just thank you for all the love and support from our community and Nuclear Blast. And
thank you, man. Appreciate your time, brother. Nice to meet you, dude.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Oi, you're tuned in to Jai, that Aussie metal guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.